Hey, this is John Miller, and this is God Moments coming to you live from the Miller Garage. Hey, tonight I want to talk to you guys about a guy named Joseph, and I want to talk to you about a short term mission trip I had to Africa, and I want to talk to you about being focused and also what's going on with the craziness with COVID-19 and with the racial tension and here in the States and throughout the world. What's going on, and are we as Christians staying focused? We need to stay focused. So, but I want to talk to you tonight about Joseph, and then maybe another night we'll talk about the other things. Let's see how far we can get, because I don't want to take up too much time. Just a little bit, just a little. So Joseph was a young man who was one of his the favorites of his father, and it was obvious to his brothers that he was the favorite because he kind of had a special jacket from dad that was kind of multicolored, and it says, "That's you, son. You're my favorite." And the brothers were like, no, not cool, Dad. Not cool. And they didn't like Joseph because of this. And they were a big family. There was about 12 brothers altogether. And Joseph was, I think it was the second youngest. He was 17 at the time. And he was kind of like Dad's messenger. He'd go and check up on his brothers. They were all a family of shepherds, and they had huge flocks that they tended, and they were a well-to-do family. And Joseph was, the young kid and checking up on the older brothers, and like I said, he was the favorite, and so they didn't like him because of that. And then he started having dreams, and he was dreaming about wheat sheaves, and he told his brothers about how their wheat sheaves all came over and bowed down to his wheat sheaf. And then he had another dream where the sun and the moon and the stars bowed down to his star. And he told his dad about this one too, and his dad was like, "What are you talking about?" And his brothers were like, "Yeah, you dreamer." And so Dad kept it in mind, though, and sent the boys off to do their shepherd thing, and then sent Joseph out to check up on him because he hadn't seen him for a few days, and this was typical. It was usual stuff, and Joseph went out to find him, and he finally found him, and they saw him coming, and they hated him so much. They said, "Look, here comes this dreamer. Let's get rid of him. Let's murder him." But the older brother, he said, "No. Let's sell him as a slave. Let's throw him down in this pit, and then we'll sell him." And so the other brother was like, "Yeah, okay." So the older brother was thinking, "Okay, maybe I could save him later," but that didn't happen because the younger brothers, saw a caravan coming, and they sold him off to these guys that were just coming by and say, "Hey, how much?" And they sold him for 20 pieces of silver, the price of a slave. And so he was sold to Potiphar, who was the captain of the guard of the Egyptian Pharaoh. And it's interesting because in chapter 39 in the Bible of Genesis, in the verses 1 through 4, describes him being sold to Potiphar, and that it also says that the Lord was with him. And I'm just thinking, wow, if you're Joseph and you just got sold as a slave, and you were living, in a pretty posh place before, with your dad, and he was fairly rich, and had lots of sheep and stuff like that, and you were well to do, and now you're a slave and God's with you. It just doesn't seem like that goes together. You know what I'm saying? But he knew that God was with him, and he also started to work and do things around Potiphar's house, and Potiphar was noticing that God was with him. Everything that Joseph did was successful. Everything that Joseph did was excellent. And he was like, "Wow, I'm putting this guy in charge of everything." So Joseph's in charge of everything, and he's doing well at Potiphar's house. And Potiphar's wife notices him. Now, Potiphar's wife wasn't too faithful to Potiphar, and she may have had affairs even before this one, but we don't know that. But she was like, "Hey, Joseph, what's up? Let's sleep together." And Joseph was like, "Nah, you know what? Your husband put me in charge of everything because he trusts me. And how could I do such an evil thing and sin against God?" Joseph was concerned about his relationship with God above all. And she kept nagging him, and one day she grabbed his cloak and tore it off of him, and he was like, "Come on, Joseph, let's go to bed." And Joseph just ran out of the house. And then when Potiphar came home, the wife said, "Hey, look what this Hebrew slave did." And she was all upset and, pretending that she had been raped, or, that he tried to do that. And she started screaming and he ran out. That's what her story was anyway. And so Potiphar throws him in jail. And again, Joseph went from really got nice, living at home with dad, and doing the family business, to being a slave. And, it says God was with him. And then he's thrown into prison, and it says again, and God was with him. And the prison guard noticed, because Joseph would do things and he'd help out, whatever he was told to do, he'd do. And he said, "Well, I can do this too, and I can do this." And Joseph ends up taking over the whole place inside. And the prison guard was just like, "Wow, this guy is running everything, and I trust him." And he had Joseph doing everything, and he knew that it would get done. And he saw that the Spirit of the living God was with him. And Joseph knew that his circumstances weren't good, but he knew that God was there with him, though. And he still continued that close relationship with God. Now, while he was in prison, he met some interesting people. He met a baker, and he met a cupbearer that had worked for Pharaoh. Okay, Pharaoh had gotten mad at him, and evidently they had done something. And they're both in prison now. And then they both had dreams, though, and Joseph noticed them and looked at them and said, "Hey, what's up, guys? You guys look kind of down in the mouth today." And "Yeah, well, we had these weird dreams." And so the cupbearer, tells Joseph his dream, and Joseph said, "Oh, well, this is what your dream means. You're going to be restored to serving the Pharaoh again, and he's going to have you back, in his service, and everything's going to be forgiven." And the cupbearer was all excited about that, and the baker saw, that he gave a favorable report to him about what his dream was. So he thought, "Wow, I'm going to tell him my dream too." And so the baker says, "Hey, this was my dream. This is what happened." And Joseph said, "Ooh, dude, you're going to be put to death. You're going to be decapitated, and in 3 days." And the baker's like, "Ah." And sure enough, that's the way it happened. The baker, gets out, and his head's lopped off, and the cupbearer gets out, and he's restored to his position as cupbearer for the Pharaoh. But before the cupbearer got out of prison, Joseph said, "Hey, don't forget about me here. Remember, what I told you, and how I helped you out. Let the Pharaoh know I'm a good guy." But cupbearer got out and forgot all about Joseph. 2 years go by, and the cupbearer is like, just enjoying life. And one day the Pharaoh has a dream, and then he has another dream. He has 2 dreams, and he's concerned about these dreams, and he starts asking his magicians and his royal cabinet and his advisors. But none of them could tell him what the dreams meant. And so the cupbearer, hears this, and he says, "Oh, yeah, let me tell you about the time. Remember you were mad at me, and I was in prison, and I met this guy named Joseph, and he told me about the dream that I had and how I would be restored to you as the cupbearer." And he also told the baker about his dream. He had a dream too, and how he would be decapitated, and he would be punished, capital punishment for him because of what he'd done. And that's exactly what happened. and this guy can tell you about your dreams. I know he can. And so the Pharaoh has Joseph taken out of prison, and Joseph, sure enough, that was a fly, knows what is going on, and Joseph tells him about his dreams. Now, the Pharaoh dreamt about these fat cows. Okay, big, fat, beautiful cows, and you look at them and you think, yum, prime rib, oh boy. But then there was these seven. There were seven of them, and there was seven skinny cows, and the skinny cows ate the fat cows, and the skinny cows still looks very skinny. It didn't look like they had eaten anything, but they just ate those big fat cows right up, and the big fat cows were gone. And then he had another dream. He dreamt about 7 grains of wheat, big fat beautiful grains of wheat. You can make a whole loaf of bread with 1 grain of wheat, one of the heads of, and so then he dreamt, the dream continued, and he had a dream about the 7 skinny little scrawny grains of wheat, and they ate the big fat grains of wheat, and they didn't look any fatter things. They were still skinny grains of wheat and ugly. And so Joseph tells him, hey, the both of these dreams are the same. It means there's going to be 7 years of abundance. There's just going to be so much food, and so much, of our crops are going to be great and everything. But then there's going to be 7 years of famine, and it's just going to eat everything that happened in those 7 years of good. And so Pharaoh was like, wow. And then, what do you think we should do? And Joseph said, well, this is what I would do. And he explained to the Pharaoh how he would make places to store wheat and the food and all the good stuff from those 7 years, and then how he would distribute that, and how he would sell it to people that needed it in the 7 bad years. And so the Pharaoh was so impressed that he thought, okay, I'm going to put you in charge of this, Joseph. You are going to be number 1 here in Egypt. The only person that is going to be higher than me is me, because I'm the Pharaoh. And nothing's going to happen here, though, in Egypt, unless you say it should. And he was like, okay. And so what happens is that just as Joseph had said, the 7 years of abundance, and they built huge storage places for grain and different things, and they were able to put provisions for the 7 bad years. Now, when the 7 bad years came, people from around the world were coming to buy grain, because this was not just a famine in Egypt, it was a famine around the world, kind of like this COVID-19 thing. It's not just here in the States, it's all around the world. And so people were coming to buy grain, and some of the people that were coming were his brothers, who were the Israelites, okay, the Hebrews, and they came to buy food. Now, when they came in to Egypt, they had to go through Joseph. When they saw Joseph, they didn't recognize him. Hey, this is my brother. No, they didn't know that was him, because he probably had a different haircut, an Egyptian haircut. Usually they had a tendency to be bald. So bald is beautiful. And so Joseph's there, and he's telling them he recognizes him right off, but he doesn't let on who he is. And then, he ends up doing some different things and testing them and seeing where they're at. And then eventually he reveals who he is, and then he forgives them. Then he also invites his whole family to come live in Egypt, and Pharaoh hears about that, and Pharaoh's all excited about his family coming in, and they give him a special place to live in Egypt. And the brothers are still kind of like, wow, we sold this guy into slavery, and we told Dad he was dead, and but now he's alive, and Dad's, on his last leg, and Dad ends up dying. And so when Dad died, they were thinking, oh no, now there's nothing stopping him from getting revenge on us. But it ends up being a real story of forgiveness and reconciliation. And it's kind of like very similar to how it is with us and God. We are sinners. We've strayed from Him, but He, came and paid the price for us. He provided for us. He stored up for us His righteousness, and He's given us grace and mercy and forgiveness. And that's what happened with Him and the brothers. And He was able to keep Israel and much of the world alive because God had shown him what was going on. And so he was able to also keep what God had said in His Word and the prophecies about different things, about Abraham becoming a nation, because it was Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was renamed Israel, and Jacob had 12 sons, and one of them was Joseph. Okay, so and all of that he was able to keep intact because God told him what was going to be happening. And God, uses each of us that are His children and that have a relationship with Him. When we're all doing different things and we all have different things that are happening in each of our lives, but God uses each of us. So I want to share with you a moment in my time with God that something happened that I was just like, what is going on? But God was with me. Okay, and that was my mission trip to Africa. But I'm going to wait until next time to share that with you. And I want to encourage you to read, the story about Joseph, because there's a lot more detail, and it's a great story. And it's from Genesis 37 to Genesis 50, okay? So go ahead and read that. I'm sure that you'll have plenty of time to read that between now and the next time we talk. And God bless you. And this has been John Miller with God Moments. And we will talk soon. Give them heaven.